All right, that was fun. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone, for your stories. Now we have three big stories. It's the speaking portion of our meeting. And we have our first speaker is Mark Grudler. This is his first ever speech in Toastmasters. Mark spent over 33 years as an electronics engineer, 10 of those improving the air traffic control system in Spain. Mark is giving his introductory speech today to share one of the most important principles he learned last year, a major part of the reason that 2020 was the best year of his life at 67 years old. The saying in Spanish, mejor tarde que nunca, is the same as the English, better late than never. Mark would like you to watch for fear of speaking to a crowd, and for vocal pauses like things he wants to avoid but finds natural to include. The title of Mark's speech today is Gratitude is the Key to Happiness in Life. Please join me in welcoming Mark.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to share a couple of experiences I had that helped me develop a life motto last year. One of those experiences is when I went to a hotel in Bahrain while I was working in Kuwait. And I was surprised when I checked in to find out that it was part of the Marriott chain because I happened to be a Platinum Elite member. So I was treated very well and had access to their VIP lounge, which was outstanding. And the entire staff was friendly, helpful, just very nice. And the VIP lounge was the best I've ever seen. And including the access to wine, because in Kuwait, wine is not available legally. There was one woman who was taking care of me in the VIP lounge that I thought was even over and above all the other staff. So when I finished visiting up there for a while, I went down to the lobby and I asked to speak to the manager. The manager came out and I was really surprised at just how terrified he looked. So I gave him the story that I've traveled a lot all over the world and I've been in a lot of luxury hotels, Ritz-Carltons, but that the staff he had in his hotel and his VIP lounge were the best I'd ever experienced. And he was surprised, shocked. He said, "Would you mind talking to my manager?" I said, "Sure." So the big manager came out and I repeated the story. Well, they shared with me that in decades working in that hotel, that outstanding hotel, not a single person had ever gone to either one of them to say anything good. So what that brought to mind was one of my mottos, and that is, people remember some of what I say, a little bit more of what I do, but what people will really remember is how I make them feel. And I will remember that experience for the rest of my life, and I hazard a guess, probably both of those guys will too. Then later last year, I was working with my fourth editor on my first novel, and she was very encouraging and not just edited, but taught me and encouraged me and really was the initial push I needed to develop self-confidence. And later on, I was watching a video of one of the talent shows and a little 10-year-old girl was stopped in the middle of her song by Simon Cowell. She was distraught, completely destroyed. But Simon explained that her background track was not appropriate. Would she sing a cappella? Which she did. And she got a standing ovation. And the change from completely destroyed to being recognized wonderfully represented exactly how my editor Bonnie made me feel. So when I finished watching that video, I called her and I said, "Bonnie, let me tell you about this video and share. I'm really grateful for the difference and the change you have made in my life because that's how I feel." So that also led to two chapters in two nonfiction books, which came out last month and are both bestsellers. A chapter on how to overcome haters, the naysayers and discouragers, and then another chapter on persistence for writers. And the chapter on haters is in a book on success with Jack Canfield, and some coaching I was doing with him led to an interview, and then also him providing me an endorsement for my novel, which really encompasses more my overall brand than just the specific novel. But the endorsement he gave me reads, "Mark Grudler is the real deal, the treasure hunter. He has found many treasures, not only ancient coins and artifacts, but the treasure of connecting with others and the treasures of travel, gratitude, forgiveness, self-confidence, and sharing to help others. This kind of led to another life motto and the adoption of my trademark. And I've never done this before, but I will share my screen, I think. Okay. So, can everybody see that? This is a doorway of the San Ginés Church in Madrid. And on the doorway, you can see a symbol there, which happens to be a numinous symbol, which was a play on words in Spanish. This is from the 1600s on the San Ginés Church. And the word in Spanish for nail is clavo. And if you put the S and the clavo together, you have the word esclavo, which is the word for slave. Well, it just so happens that there was a religious brotherhood in this church, and this side door was an entrance directly into their chapel. And it was the brotherhood of the slaves to the Holy Christ of the Redemption. And then, I also found a 17th century religious medallion with this symbol on it, and a coin with a symbol on it. Now, the religious medallion was for a brotherhood of slaves to something, but the coin was not a religious symbol. I mean, it has that significance to me, but it's really probably part of a sign from Felipe II, Felipe III, although those usually have an E with them. So it's still a unique coin. And then on the right, there's a symbol which is in another church on the ceiling. And then what I did was I took, I was going to use a bronze ancient Roman heart, but I decided to use the medieval one because I like the shape of the medieval one better. And then I took an ancient Roman S and an ancient Roman nail, and I put those together and photoshopped them. And I created this trademark, which represents my life motto, which is, I am a slave to gratitude. And so I just am thankful for the opportunity to share that with you, and would like to again reinforce the idea that what is really important in life is to have gratitude for what we have and for the people we have connected with. Thank you very much for letting me share.
And thank you, Mark.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. Now evaluating Mark's speech, Megan Yarbrough.
Thank you, Ryan. I love icebreaker meetings. We had 2 icebreakers today, and I am so happy to get to know these people in our club since I've been gone. Mark, fantastic job for your first time out. I think a couple things you wanted us to look for is watching like the fear aspect of doing your first speech, and your ums and your uhs and filler words like that. Your introduction was super interesting. I loved everything you put in there about your 33 years as an electronics engineer, 10 of those being in an air traffic control system in Spain. And you even put a Spanish quote in there, the mejor tarde que nunca. I would have loved for you to talk a little bit more about that experience in Spain. I'm guessing you learned Spanish while you were over there, or at least used it. So I would have loved if you had thrown a little bit of that in there, a little bit more than just your intro. Then you broke into some fascinating stories. The one in Kuwait with the hotel, great story. I love hearing when people can give good reviews to people, especially the employees at places like that, because they do not get it enough. But then you tied that into the encouragement you've gotten from your editor and how that kind of related to the little girl changing her song. And it seemed like after you were telling those stories and kind of going back to how much your editor gave you that encouragement, you kind of stopped for a second, and I kind of saw a little bit of emotion going on your face. And you kind of composed yourself really there, and then you kind of went back into your story. one of the things you learn when you're speaking, when that emotion's coming, write it, because the audience can see it. You saw that I saw it, even though you were very composed and you just wiped it off as fast as you could. But that kind of emotion also lets us connect with you a lot more. So, you know, ride those emotional waves. But yeah, keep telling your story. Use the word of the day in your speech. I'm amazed. I love that. That's always a pro thing there. And I think with the whole aspect of your personal brand and telling us the history of that and where it came from, it's a fantastic brand, and it does mean a lot. And I think through your stories that you've told us, we learned a lot about you. But I would have liked to know a little bit more of your background, a little bit more of your engineering, and why you're here. Why are you in chats? You know, are you still working? Are you wanting to use this to kind of expand your skills? So I would like to know more about that. And I think in your future speeches you do with us, I'd love to hear more of that. But great job, fantastic. Can't wait to hear more from you.
James, could you please tell us who our winners were for each of the awards?
I most certainly can. For the best speech, that was Mark. He won that one down.
One more thing, let's see, I think Mark, you had mentioned via email that you had something you wanted to say right quick.
Yes, if I can you see my screen?
You're not sharing.
How about now?
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Last night, when I had planned to spend time preparing and doing a trial run, I found myself looking at this picture of 3.5 decades ago and feeling grateful for the times I shared with these 4 little children, and especially, sorry.
Yeah, we're going to add 10 more O's to your count.
Okay, but especially the smile and holding the poppy of my daughter Amanda here. And then this morning, I was grateful again for the connections I've made and the friendships I made over 3.5 decades ago and have maintained. Because this morning, I found myself talking to Pilar, who 3.5 decades ago was a teenager living with us as an au pair. And my daughter had struggles when we came back from Spain. And Pilar knew that. And this morning she told me, I always hoped that things would change for her and that she would go back to being that sweet and delicate little princess that I kept in my arms. Because last night I found out that the night before she died at 39 years old. And I still don't know any more. But last night I found myself looking at this picture and asking myself, am I the real deal? And am I really a slave to gratitude? Or is it just a fancy motto? I'm sorry, I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Mark. We're so sorry to hear that.